Hi everybody, Andrew here from KWMWine.com, your favourite place to buy wine, of course. Today we're trying something really interesting and unusual, unique almost. Quinta dos Carvalhais, Reserva 2013 from the Dow region of northern Portugal. So Dow, first of all, is in the northern half of Portugal, a little bit south of where the Douro would be, where all the port production is, and it's a little bit inland as well. So it does make red and white wines in that particular area. They'll make them using traditional Portuguese grape varieties. That's the key thing with Portugal as well. You don't really get a lot of sort of international varieties like Cabernets, Merlots, Syrahs, anything like that. It's all, or predominantly high percentage, locally indigenous grape varieties, I suppose, as you might call them, that you won't see anywhere else. So, and this wine is a perfect example of that, I suppose. It's made using 60% Encruzado, which, while indigenous to Portugal, is even more indigenous to the Dow. You don't really see it outside of the Dow region, so it's kind of their specialty. And 60% Encruzado, 40% Verdelho or Verdejo. You'll see pockets of Verdejo around the world, I suppose, particularly in places like Madeira. You'll see it in Spain in the Reida region as Verdejo, and you'll also see it even in Australia, but then most grape varieties nowadays are in Australia, although Verdejo has been in Australia for quite some time. I remember it being on a bit of a trend grape variety back probably in the late 90s, I suppose, coming out of Australia, but it never really caught on very well, and it's kind of faded out from that perspective for other things such as, say, Riesling, Sauvignon Blancs and whatever. But anyway, so this is quite an unusual, unique wine, 2013 vintage, so it's 5 years old pretty much at this point. So that seems quite an old bottle of wine for a white, particularly out of somewhere like Portugal. When you think Portuguese white, you think Vinho Verdes, those light, crisp sort of very young drinking wines, and not designed to keep. This one here is made in such a way that it develops and takes a long time to sort of integrate and balance, I suppose. So go back to 2013 vintage. It was a bit of a mixed year in terms of the early part of the year was beset sort of bad weather conditions. It rescued it in the July-August period of nice settled weather, and then September was a little bit rainy, and they had to be careful when they were picking the grapes. So they picked the grapes, took them to the winery, they pneumatically pressed them, just gently pressed, took the juice out, let it cool, settle for a while, then took it off gross lees, fermented it at about 16 degrees for quite a long period, about 3 weeks. So it's a nice slow, cool fermentation which builds complexity into the wine. After that, then the wine spent about 40 months, so 3.5 years, which is a really long time, in 225 litre French barriques. So quite small wood barriques, but they were second, third use barriques, so they weren't new, so it wasn't overpowering all that sort of lovely grape juice and flavours of the grapes with wood. It was there to sort of help it along and give it integration and balance. So 3.5 years in wood. So this is 2015 or early part of 2018, sorry. So we're 4.5 years. So this would be the latest release of this particular wine. Not a cheap bottle of wine by any means if you think about the stages and procedures and all the work that goes into it and the length of time it takes to get it to market. So you're talking low 20s, low to mid 20s for this particular wine. It's one for those people who really love wine, exploring new tastes and want to try something different. Quinta dos Carvalhais, Reserva 2013 from Portugal. Anything from Portugal is for someone who's into wine, who wants to discover new flavours. It's a great country to go to. So colour wise, it has quite a bit of straw colour, it has a bit of depth. You can see that it is not water white, green wine by any means, fresh off the vine, if you like. So it has a bit of time in bottle and in oak, obviously, to give it the colour. So fascinating nose. Really, really nice. I had a glass of this earlier on with dinner, and it drank really, really well with some roast chicken. On the nose immediately I was getting, and I do get, is this sort of tropical melon, papaya sort of flavour straight away. And then reading the back label, actually, it gives you the tasting note, and in the tasting note it suggests orange zest and it suggests clove. And clove was one of the flavours I really got from this earlier on. It's still a bit there, but it's more developed into those sort of hazelnut characters now, and a really sort of stony mineral character. Orange zest, a little bit. There's a bit of smokiness going on in that wine as well. So it's a really quite a complex glass, and it's a really good sign of quality wines of any sort, white, red, whatever. When you keep going back to the nose and you can't get past that, you just keep smelling and looking for different things, and you smell in different things. There's so many dimensions to this wine, you can tell that it's a serious bottle of wine. Definitely that sort of spice going on, like clove. Very interesting. This would be a real sommelier's wine, I would imagine. We just love this stuff. A bit of weight and texture to the palate. Finishes out quite dry and stony. What I liked about this earlier on when I had it with dinner was a really nice balance between the acid and that sort of slight buttery tone coming off the wood. It's not buttery, oaky, like you might expect from the old malolactic style sort of Chardonnays. There's very little or no malolactic I get on this wine at all. Anything that's coming through there is really coming from the oak, just to help the fruit along, give it a balance. Now, the Portuguese have high hopes for Cruzado as the next big thing as far as white grape varieties are concerned from there. But it's still early days, and it is only in pockets in sort of the Dow region of Portugal, so it could be a long time before you see this openly on wine shop shelves, I suppose. But yeah, it's a really interesting bottle of wine. Say not cheap, but for anybody who's prepared to experiment and wants to try new flavours, it's a great bottle of wine for someone who likes, say, riper style white burgundies, or who likes Northern Italian Vermentinos, things like that. They're probably a big good option and provide particularly good value, particularly when you price it against burgundies and that there. So yeah, really interesting bottle of wine, well worth a shot and a drink if you see it and prepared to buy it. So take a risk, enjoy some really nice Portuguese white wines. Remember, kwmwine.com, place where taste matters. Cheers.